Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the final word with MattyB, starting our second, week of existence here on this beautiful Sunday night, October 13th, 2024. And I hope you had a great weekend, and I'm glad that you're here tonight to talk to me about some of the things that a little pertinent around here on this Sunday night. And of course, remind everybody that this show is on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. And make sure that you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel link below, because we are streaming out on multiple different platforms, the Edge of Philly Sports Facebook and their Twitter, my Twitter. But the primary place to find this great program is going to be on this YouTube channel. So make sure you're liking and subscribing and coming along for the right ride that we're going to go on every Sunday through Thursday night together. So obviously the first topic tonight and the biggest story in town is your Philadelphia Eagles today found a way to win, but yet not win. Found a way to win, but pulled themselves further away from the fan base as they struggled mightily against the Cleveland Browns. And then you mix in the buffoonery of your head coach, who not only decides to yuck it up with the fans again, but then he brings his kids out to the press conference to use them as some sort of like human shield against the soft-ass Philadelphia Eagle media, which I don't know why he did that. I mean, the soft-ass Eagle media is not going to give him anything hard to talk about anyway, so it's a shame that he put his children in that position. But the Philadelphia Eagles won today, 2016, but you wouldn't know it if you were looking at it. That might have been one of the ugliest football games I have ever seen. And for all you people out there that condemned me, I mean, straight up chastised me for my takes on this team and the culture of this team and the talent levels of this team, screw you. Who's laughing now? On this very program, or I shouldn't say on this very program, on this very network, Kyle Quinn, on the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn, guaranteed a win. But then I was emphatic about driving home a point to him. What kind of win were we expecting as a Philadelphia Eagle fan base? Was it a 20-16 sweat affair, or was it going to be the dominating kind of like mop up the floor with the Cleveland Brown game that really any Super Bowl contending team would have done? And Kyle was like, you know what? It has to be emphatic. It has to be dominating. And that was the consensus around a lot of Eagle pundits or Eagle fans. It's that style point situation where it doesn't necessarily matter that we won, because we haven't won a game cleanly, or we haven't won a game with, style, or with that Super Bowl swag for 11 months and 44 days. That was the last game that the Philadelphia Eagles won that resembled anything like, or they resembled anything like a Super Bowl contender. And that was last year against the Buffalo Bills. We're coming up on 12 months of subpar football. And today is no different. Just throw that on the scrap heap. The offense continues to sputter. The defense continues to play well in stretches, but not be able to defend the run at longer stretches. The team actually was able to pull up to a 10-0 lead heading into the back end of the first half. They gave up the field goal, and then a bizarre sequence of plays occurred towards the end of the half where Saquon Barkley decides to run out of bounds short of the first down marker, setting up a 3rd and 1. The Eagles take a timeout prior to running that play, and then they come back out, and Jalen Hurts goes back to pass. Saquon Barkley again gets blown past by a defender. Jalen Hurts gets sacked. The Eagles line up for a field goal, which is then blocked by Myles Garrett and then returned by McLeod for the touchdown. We have a 10-10 game heading into halftime. Super Bowl contending teams don't play like that way against the Cleveland Browns. They don't. There was nothing positive about this game. It was a win in win only. If people out there feel that the Philadelphia Eagles are going anywhere this year, I would love to hear from them tonight. I know you guys are, some of you are watching out there. Chime in tonight. I want to know how you feel or what you think by today's game, and not only just today, but the 4 games that preceded it this season and all the games last year after the Buffalo game. What makes you think this team is a Super Bowl contender? And then the head coach and his shenanigans, which we'll discuss in a little bit, put it over the top for me, honestly. So we're going to talk that. We're also going to talk some Phillies or some baseball, maybe not some Phillies, but the Phillies are, I guess, having a press conference on Tuesday and to kind of wrap up the season. I guess they're in talks right now over Rob Thompson and his coaching staff's future. More will probably follow on that. Do we see a head coaching change or a manager change here in Philadelphia? I don't know. I really hope they do. Maybe we'll discuss that a little bit. And the Flyers back in action over the weekend in Western Canada as the season kicked off. Really encouraging, fun game on Friday night against the Vancouver Canucks. Not so encouraging or not so fun last night against Calgary. Team might have been suffering the effects of some back-to-back. Ivan Fedotov kind of sputtered down the stretch. Once again, the Flyer offense is definitely like better, I would say, through 2 games of the season, but still lacking in some areas. Shot accuracy continues to be a bugaboo for this team, especially with Owen Tippett. But we'll discuss the Flyers as they kick off the season and much, much more here on this beautiful Sunday night as we kick off our broadcasting week here on The Final Word. But we're going to do this as we do every show, and that is your day in Philadelphia sports history. We kick off every show that way because I like to kind of remember the past. I like to walk back so we can walk ahead, and that's what we'll do tonight. And tonight I have 2 moments that occurred on this day in October 13th, both baseball related. The first one occurred in 1915, and again, popular contrary belief, I was not here for this. The Phillies lost in 5 games in the 1915 World Series to the Buffalo, to the Boston Red Sox. Wow. Buffalo. What the hell was I thinking about Buffalo? The first appearance of a Phillies team in a World Series was in 1915, and this was their first appearance, and they ended up going down in 5 games to Boston in the World Series. Now, if we would have known back in 1915 that they'd only win 2 championships ever, obviously, and I'm sure there was, again, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you what the attitude of the fan base was, and I'm sure it was pretty, maybe pretty hostile. Team was, 20 years old at the time, or a little bit over than 20 years old. But, of course, World Series futility for the Phillies, both appearances and wins, have plagued this team since its inception. This year, of course, being no exception. But on this night back in 1915, the Phillies lost in their first ever World Series appearance to the Boston Red Sox in 5 games. And the other event, a little bit more happy, back in 1993, the greatest Phillies season really ever, even though they lost the World Series. I'm sorry, it was my favorite Phillies season ever. Great, watched it from start to finish. Just a fun team to watch, a team that played the game the right way. But on this night, back in 1993, the Phillies clinched the NL pennant against the Braves in Game 6. So we all know how that ride would end in a 6-game loss to the Blue Jays in the World Series. But definitely, I remember this night. I remember the moment that they clinched. I remember, being very, very just amazingly happy. Did not really understand or could figure out where the season was coming from. I couldn't figure that out all year. But absolutely happy and thrilled that the Phillies were able to clinch and move on to the World Series. And that occurred on this night in 1993. So there you have your moments, I guess, in Philadelphia sports history on this day, October 13th, 1993 and 1915. So let's stroll back to the game. Again, it's frustrating for me to have to sit here and defend myself because I've taken a lot of heat over my takes on the Eagles. And yet they continue to play like this. And I've never felt, I've never seen an Eagles victory be so put under a microscope than this game is. Is anybody coming out of this game positive? I know some of the real staunch homers out there are really just saying a win is a win is a win. They're still kind of going up. They're still dying on that hill. But where are the rest of us on this? Where are the other 99% of the Philadelphia Eagle fan base? I guess 98%. The homers being the 1%, me being in the other percent, and then the rest of you being in the 98%. Where are you at? Is there any confidence anymore on this team to be a Super Bowl contender? Based on what you've seen with your own eyes. Again, not what I've said or anybody else has said, but based on what you've seen with your own eyes, what makes you think this team is a Super Bowl contender? The quarterback continues to struggle offensively. The offense continues to struggle. They had their moments today, but they were few and far between against a Cleveland Brown defense that came into the game banged up and were losing people along the way. And still the Eagles could not pull away from the Cleveland Browns. Defensively for the Birds, I'll give them some credit today. They got to Deshaun Watson 5 times. 5 sacks today. Entering the game, they had 6 all season, and they got to him 5 times. So now they've sacked the quarterback 11 times for 45 yards on the season, which is very positive. But Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Brown offense is got to be I would probably put some Division III college teams up against the Browns because that offense is so bad. And that quarterback is so bad. But yet, they hung around through special teams, and they did enough offensively to get points to put them in a position. And let's face it, man, some bad penalties down the stretch by Cleveland. And we're singing a different tune. The Browns should have won this game. And that's the bottom line. The Eagles did not cover. So I don't know if anybody was stupid enough to take the Eagles in 9.5 points. But they didn't cover. I would have definitely laid money on the Browns to cover. What makes you think out there that this team is still a Super Bowl champion? I want to know, man. I really do, because you guys were all over me on my takes about how criminally incompetent Howie Roseman is and how much of a buffoon and clown Nick Sirianni is. But now that it's all sort of, again, unraveled or unraveling, where are your takes? Where are all you Super Bowl or bust people out there? And make a case for your claim. I've never seen it quite like this. Some of the numbers today, befuddling. Red zone, the Eagles did not get into the red zone at all. So they were 0 for 0 in the red zone. I don't remember the last time the Philadelphia Eagle football team has never made it into a red zone in a game. They didn't score any points in the first quarter again. That's now for the first 5 games of the season. First time in franchise history the team has never scored any points in the first quarter through 5 games. Amazing. They didn't turn the ball over today. Again, a positive. And there are, I guess, some positives to take out. They've still turned it over 8 times for the season. They also didn't force any turnovers. So, in a quarterback that's worse than freaking Jalen Hurts, and an offense that's worse than the Eagles by a long shot in the Cleveland Browns, they didn't force any turnovers. Eagles have only forced 2 turnovers on the season up to this point. That works out for about, what is that? That works out to about 0.4 turnovers a game. So they're averaging less than a half a turnover a game throughout the season. Criminal, man. Again, they got to Deshaun Watson 5 times. They went for it twice. They converted twice on 4th down. Now they're 7 for 12 on the season. So, and then I got to get to this. I gotta share this because this is the icing on top of what is wrong with this team. And of course, there you go. There's your head coach jawing with the fans, defending himself. I don't know what he was doing, but there you go. There's your head coach. There's your professional. There's an NFL football coach jawing with the fans who are rightfully probably giving him everything he deserved. Now, I'm sure, and I hope that's not the case, and if it is the case, I apologize, but don't step across the line, of course. We don't do that here, but, the fans have a right. What was the fire Nick chants I heard coming from the southwest corner of the link towards the end of the first half? The boos were raining down. And then that press conference, when he brought his kids up to the podium, and he started to kind of just go into these tirades about it's hard to win at this level. It's hard. The defense came out and was emphatic. And we know we have problems with fast starts. We know we have problems putting up points. All that stuff to me is, and again, he's breaking into the media. He's talking to the media, and he's running a narrative that we're stupid and that we should shut up because they won. Where are you on Nick Sirianni? Where are you on this? Does Nick Sirianni deserve to be fired? Does he? And I want to know. Even with a win, does Jeff Lurie fire Nick Sirianni tomorrow? Does he say enough's enough? I got to salvage the season. This guy's a clown. I'm going to go ahead and fire him. Or do we continue to ride down this road? Do we continue to expect this team to go out there and try to compete week after week? They got the Giants next week. Winnable game, but a losable game. They got the Bengals. Every game is winnable and losable for them. There's no locks for the Philadelphia Eagles anymore. There's going to be no more lock wins for this football team heading into the future. It's just not going to happen. And I want to know where everybody stands on that. And is it outlandish to think that it's time? It's time to move on from your head coach. Is it outlandish to think it's time to move on for your GM? Is it outlandish to understand and accept this is a bad football team? Everybody keeps saying there's no way that this team should be playing this way with the level of talent that's on this team. But I heard the same thing a couple of days ago about the Phillies. The level of talent on this team was too high for them to go out in 5 games or 4 games to the Mets. But they weren't performing. And, I guess it's somewhat of a hypocritical situation right now where people who want Rob Thompson's head, but maybe don't want Nick Sirianni. I don't understand why you wouldn't want, both of them. And I get that. And I don't know, but firing the head coach, I think this team is talented. I don't think they're as talented as many people think they are, but I think they're talented. But they're as talented as a 500 football team is. And again, that's been my take on this team for the entire season, or actually entire few seasons. So Eagles win 2016. Again, they don't manage to score any points in the first quarter. They actually ended up scoring 10 first half points, 10 second half points. 5 penalties for 40 yards. Just a real ugly game. Just an ugly game. A game that was not needed. And watching it, there was no energy coming out of the stadium, man. And I guess maybe I was not seeing this right, but I've never heard the Link as quiet as it was today ever. Or I really can't remember it being that quiet. Of course, other than when the booze came. So the Eagles found a way to win. But is everybody feeling good? Do you feel happy? Do you feel vindicated? Dallas Goedert went out. It was just a matter of time, right, when he got hurt. Darius Slay went out. Jordan Mailata got carted off. Rodgers went out for a little bit, but he did return. So now we're going to be dealing with injuries again. To Grant Calcaterra's credit, he had a pretty decent day in relief. He had 4 receptions on the day. He was targeted 4 times. 4 receptions for 67 yards. Jalen on the day was 16 for 25, 204 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Was sacked 1 time, and again, did not commit a turnover. I got to give him credit. We were all waiting for that turnover to happen. I was waiting for it on that final drive where they went up 20-13. I thought there was a turnover coming then, but it didn't. And to the Eagles' credit, they did what they had to do. But we've been saying this for so long now. They did what they had to do. A win is a win is a win. At what point does people start getting concerned about the style points? Because that's what I kept hearing all week. It's got to be a style. It's got to be dominant. It's got to be step on their throat and put them down like the dogs that they are. And they continue to struggle. So I ask you that. With the win today, Eagles are now 3-2. But does anybody feel better or worse about the Philadelphia Eagles moving forward into next week against the Giants and the buffoonery of their head coach that now has resorted to using his children as human shields at press conferences, which is totally unacceptable. Now, I also wonder how much the Eagles PR staff had in this. Knowing what he was doing on the sidelines at the end of the game, knowing people were watching that and it was definitely going to be asked of him, how much of that was taken into in effect by the Eagle PR team and said, you know what, Nick, why don't you bring your kids up there to try to deflect or tone down some of the questioning that was going to be handed to him. And if that's the case, shame on the Eagles PR staff. Shame on them. Because you know what? Nick Sirianni's a man. Let him answer it as a man and not with his children sitting next to him. And I think it was a classless move to bring his kids up to the podium, to have him try to, look better than really what he was being portrayed on this day. So the Eagles win, but I think in a lot of different ways, the Eagles lost today. And does Nick Sirianni, is it time to fire him? What are the odds that he gets fired this week heading into the Giants game? Probably 0. How much more do we got to take, man? How much more do you got to take? How much more do I got to take before this thing just completely becomes unwatchable or unattainable? We are a laughingstock in the NFL. 20-16, disgusting win against the Cleveland Browns. And the Eagles should have lost. They should have lost. So there's your Eagle knowledge today. Let's go around the NFL because it was an interesting day around the National Football League. Games that are over now. The Chargers over the Broncos 23-16. It was the Steelers all over the Raiders 32-13. In the most entertaining game of the day, the Lions just dismantled the Cowboys 47-9. The Falcons beat the Carolina Panthers 38-20. It was the Bears 35-16 winners over the Jaguars in London. The Doug Peterson fire watch has begun. It was the Packers 34-13 over the Cardinals. The Colts 20-17 winners over the Titans. Texans 41-21 winners over the Patriots. It was the Buccaneers all over the Saints 51-27. And then probably the most entertaining, the most fun game to watch of the weekend, it was the Ravens 30-23 over the Commanders. At least for this year, the Commanders are no slouch. They really aren't. Now, we don't know what this team will be as they move forward when they get tape on Daniels and all that. But at least for this year, the Commanders are going to be no joke. And currently, it is 10-7 Bengals over the Giants. They're playing at the end of the third quarter. And there you have your day in NFL here on the program again. Brought to you by the It's a Wrap Sports Network and the Final Word with MattyB. So, just pitiful, man. And, I listen to it all the time when I took my stances against certain things and certain aspects. Where are you now? Where are you people now? Come on, I'm sitting here. I'm waiting to hear where I was such a blowhard and I'm wrong. I want to hear it, man. I really do, because it's becoming criminal, man. We're a laughing stock around the NFL. This head coach is a laughing stock. What he's done to this organization and what Howie Roseman has done to this organization is a laughing stock around the National Football League. Someone needs to do something about it. It needs to come to an end. And until it does, until somebody fires both of them, I don't want one, I want both. Until they both get fired, we're going to continue to be a laughing stock around the league. So, but the Eagles win. They're now 3-2, and they'll prepare for the Giants next week. What are your odds here that the Eagles win this game? I mean, would anybody be surprised coming out of this game if the Giants beat the Eagles? I certainly won't. Giants are not as bad as everybody thought they were going to be. They're playing better. They're gutting out some wins. They're in a game tonight against the Bengals. I mean, it's not going to be easy next week against the Giants at MetLife. It's not. It is not going to be easy. And for all of Saquon Barkley's amazingness that he has brought to this team so far this season, those last two plays at the end of the first half, to me, were indicative of a team that lacks discipline and accountability. He steps out of bounds both prior to the first down marker, setting up a 3rd and 1. Then the Eagles take a timeout, and they come out of the timeout with a silly play, with probably a 3-step drop play that the Browns blew it up. They blew past Saquon, sacked Jalen, put them in a position that led to the blocked field goal. So again, the accountability piece. And then Nick Sirianni had the gall to say that the media is driving a narrative that there's something wrong with the Eagles in the press conference. There is something wrong, and you are part of the problem, big part of the problem, you clown. So it's time to fire Sirianni. It's time to fire Roseman. If you guys want to salvage anything, if you want to maybe not salvage this season, but salvage this franchise, move on from these two buffoons and let's get it right. And let's start the healing and rebuilding process as soon as we possibly can. But each week that we sit here and watch this, each week that we have to endure this type of play, and we've been enduring it again for the last calendar year, coming up on 12 months, we've been watching this type of football. How much more do you need to see? They're not winning a Super Bowl this year. They'll be lucky to get to the playoffs, but they're not winning a Super Bowl. What the Detroit Lions did today to the Cowboys, I shudder to think what they would do to the Eagles if we happen to see them in the playoffs. We are not in the top third or top 2 or 3 or 4 of the NFC. We are in the bottom third of the National Football Conference. We are down there with Arizona. We're down there with Atlanta, Carolina. We're down there. We're not up there with San Francisco. We're not up there with Detroit. Those days are over. Now, whether that's because of not enough talent or bad coaching or a combination of both, whatever you want to call it, we're not there. I think it's a combination of both. And we need to try to get back there. And it's not going to happen with these two people in charge of the Philadelphia Eagles. So 20-16, the Eagles win. But I don't think I've been as bitter about an Eagles win ever in my life than what occurred here today at Lincoln Financial Field. Now it's time to bring on the Giants and hope our first NFC East game of the season next Sunday. So we'll see how that all works out for the Birds. Now let's transition to the Philadelphia Flyers because, as I said, the Flyers started their season off Friday night in Vancouver in a very entertaining game that went to the shootout. The Flyers ended up winning 3-2 in the debuts of MattyB Michkov and Jet Lachenko. And, of course, here on the network, we covered it exclusively, or extensively, I shouldn't say exclusively, but extensively with the Clear the Ice show. I had the season opener, and last night Sal did the game in Calgary. And, there were some positives to take away from these first two games. There were some negatives. Jet Lachenko, he's got that 9-game audition, right? He's got 9 games that he can play in before the Flyers have to make a decision on him. If after the 9th game of the year that he decides, or his 9th game, I should say, not 9th game of the year, but his 9th game, if after the 9th game they keep him, then his contract starts ticking. But if they decide after the 9th game that he's not ready, they can send him back to the OHL, back to Guelph. No harm, no foul on his contract, and it pretty much, it freezes. So in his opening game, definitely the speed, the hockey IQ was on display, but I think there was some other things going on. I think the game was I'm not going to say too fast for him, but I think it was faster than he thought. And unfortunately, there's no way you can prepare for that. The preseason is a poor gauge to judge how fast an NHL hockey game is, a regular season game, and it's no gauge to gauge how fast a playoff game is because they amp it up to another level in the playoffs. So when he came out there, I thought he was somewhat, not puck watching to a point, but I think he was, spent a majority of the beginning part of the game trying to acclimate himself to the speed. And I'm not saying he can't keep up, but it's probably not going to come as easy as he thinks it's going to be, or he thought it might come based on training camp in the preseason. And there was that play earlier, or kind of in the second period, where he got caught looking. He got caught making a very slow, lazy turn. His man got behind him and then was fed for a nice little tip play in front of the net. It was 1-on-1 in front of Erson. They tipped it in for a goal. And that was completely on the young man. He really made a blunder on that. You can't watch a puck, and you got to be very definitive on your turns. You got to be going at high tempo at all times. So I think it was more of a learning experience for him in the first game. He did not play against Calgary for whatever reason. I don't know if it was designed by trying to extend those 9 games out as far as they can, or maybe there was some other issues going on. I didn't hear of anything, but he did not play in the game against Calgary. MattyB Michkov is the real deal, man. This kid's got it all. He's got the goals. He's got the goal sense. He's got the hockey IQ. He's got the wheels. He's got the presence. He's got the attitude. He's got the moxie. He's got all that. He is going to be something very special in this league. No points on Friday night, but he did get on the score sheet last night with his first career NHL point and assist. So he is going to be fun to watch as he progresses through his career. Goaltending-wise, I thought Erson played well on Friday. I thought Fedotov played okay. Again, it's hard for me to gauge a guy that's his 4th NHL start. It is what it is with him. I think as a backup, and I know it might be a different situation for the Flyers because they're going to probably rely on their backup a little bit more than most teams do. But I think he'll be okay when he gets those opportunities. He seemed a little, he had that one that really fluky goal there in the first period that kind of rattled off the dude's shoulder or elbow and went in. So can't really judge that, but he kind of got rattled down the stretch, and but it is what it is. It's the Flyers' goaltending situation. There's nothing more they can do about it. They're going to have to go with what they got, but there's something there. The Flyers didn't do Fedotov much. They didn't get much help. There were some defensive breakdowns in front of them. The Flyers seemed visibly kind of tired, and they were playing on the second night of a back-to-back. So, there could be something to that, too. Some stats from the first two games as we start the season, and some positive things. For the Flyers on the power play, so far they're 2 for 8 through the season, 1 for 4 both on Friday and Saturday night. So it's positive that they're scoring goals, all right? They got 2 power play goals over the weekend. I'll take that. They're 25% right now on the power play. I will take that any day of the week compared to the 12.2% they were last year. So 2 for 8 through 2 games on the power play is amazing. Keep it up. If we can go 1 for 4 every game, that's going to be that's some wins right there mounting up for this team. But it's a positive sign. It's a positive sign the way their power play has been working. I don't know. Again, not every power play is going to score, but some of the cycling, some of the creativity I've seen on the power play this year, well, through the first 2 games, is definitely encouraging. Again, the addition of MattyB Michkov and Jet Lachenko will make that unit better, and it's already yielded 2 goals. So 2 for 8, 25%. The Flyers have been shorthanded 10 times through 2 games. Now, that's not encouraging. That's 5 penalties a game. They've killed off 8 of those 10, but still, 5 penalties per game is too many. It throws off your entire offensive approach. It throws the game off. It throws everything off. You got to try to stay out of the box. And there's been some bad penalties taken by this team. Some really, stupid penalties in the term of like penalties because they were beaten or penalties because they were in the wrong position. I can't stand those penalties. I really hate those. So that's got to get cleaned up a little bit. But they've killed 8 of the 10 for 80% so far. The shorthanded group was a strength of this team last year. They were up in the 86th percentile most of the season, top 10 in the league. They also did score a shorthanded goal last night. And they had a shorthanded and a power play goal last night. So that's very encouraging, connecting with the shorthanded goal. They're averaging 6 goals a game, they've scored 6 goals a game, averaging 3. They've given up 8 goals a game, so that's 4. So again, we got to clean that up. Shots for 71 so far through 3 games for 30 or 2 games for 35.5. They've given up 58 shots for 29, so they're outscoring their opponents just like they did last year. They are 1-0 in shootouts now. They have 1 shorthanded goal. They've taken the puck away 10 times through 2 games, so that's 5 times a game. That needs to come up. And they've given the puck away 28 times through 2 games. 14 average a game. That needs to come way down. The team last year averaged about 5.5 giveaways a game. And so, again, 14 giveaways or 28 giveaways through 2 games is way too many. We got to get that under control. And I think they will. And the Flyers continue to build off the trend from last year. They've blocked 38 shots through 2 games, so that's averaging out to about 19 shots a game they're blocking. So they're picking off where they left off last year with the blocked shots. Very encouraging to see that. So 1-1 the Flyers are as they go through their Western Canadian tour. Next stop will be Edmonton against the Oilers on Tuesday night before they play in Seattle on Thursday and then return home for their home opener on Saturday against the Seattle Kraken. And yeah, it's great that the season's back in force. And the Flyers, again, it was great. When you start the season, it does suck. 10 o'clock game. Flyers were one of the first teams to start the year. One of the last teams, I should say, that actually play their first game based on the day and the time of the day. So waiting through the first 3 days of the NHL season that opened for the Flyers game to begin was a little annoying. But we got there. And then the Flyers were able to do what they did. So I'm very encouraged, very happy that the season's underway. Cannot wait for a great 2024, 2025 that I believe will end in a Flyers trip to the playoffs this year. So you heard it here first. Flyers will go to the playoffs this year. And that will lead me to my final point of the night, and that is the NLCS. We know who our LCS opponents are. It'll be the Dodgers and Mets in the National League, and it is the Guardians and the Yankees in the American League. So there is a possibility of a Subway Series. God help me. That would be terrible. But it is what it is. And tonight out in L.A., it was, when I checked in earlier, they were all over them. Let me just refresh this. Yep, 6-0. The Dodgers, top of the 8th. And they're all over the Mets. Good. I don't know if I want the Dodgers to go advancing. I hate the Dodgers too, but obviously you don't want to see the Mets get any further than they've already gotten. So the Dodgers showing the world what the Phillies could not show the world. And that's what a good baseball team does in the playoffs. They've answered the bell, and at least through the first game, they're handling a lesser opponent. I wish the Philadelphia Phillies had that same mantra, or we'd still be playing right now. So the NLCS is underway tomorrow, and the Bronx, the Yankees will kick it off against the Cleveland Guardians tomorrow night. So we are getting to that point. The Final Four of baseball has arrived, just 2 weeks away, and we'll be in the World Series. So, or actually, about 10 days away, right? World Series. And as I mentioned at the top, the Phillies are holding meetings as we speak to discuss the futures of Rob Thompson and his coaching staff. I believe the press conference is scheduled for Tuesday to kind of put a bow on the season and then hopefully start the process of repairing and changing the attitude or outlook of this team, because there's massive change that needs to happen. And question will be, of course, which one of your Phillies players that you are in love with will no longer be here because they're just not good enough baseball players. And that'll be fun to watch as we move through the winter. So keep your eyes out for that. Some programming notes here on the network. Of course, we got you covered this week for all the post-game coverage for the Flyers, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Tuesday and Thursday is me, and then Sal will be with you on Saturday. Sal G from the Fighting's Final has joined the Clear the Ice crew this year, and he'll be providing some assistance with me as we go through the Flyers post-game shows this year. Still working on potential other add-ons to the crew, but right now it's Sal's in, so looking forward to working with Sal again. Did a great job with the Fighting's Final, and looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the table for Clear the Ice. He was on the other night. What a way to break somebody into a Flyers post-game show. 1 o'clock in the morning against the Calgary Flames and a loss. And Sal did great, and I knew he would. But big things are on the way here in the network is, again, we're trending towards different areas. We're trying to break ground, and we're building something in flight, as I've mentioned this over and over again. And we're gonna continue to move on. So that's pretty much going to do it for me tonight. There's not really much more to talk about. We could yammer on, or I could yammer on more and more about the Eagles, but I think the point has been pretty much done to death. The Eagles win today 20-16, but in what planet or universe are people actually happy about this? And what planet and what universe are people actually satisfied with the performance of this team? And how do you really view this team going forward this year? It was supposed to be a Super Bowl or bust season. How can you sit here and look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, I still believe that? This team is not good. This team is not well coached. This team is not well, I don't know, they're not well disciplined. They're not a good football team. They got good football players on it, but they're just not a good football team. And you need to be a team to win. And they won today, but you wouldn't really know it if you weren't paying attention, because the vibe around this town is worse than, I think, a loss. Going into this game, it was emphatic. It had to be dominating. It had to be put them in the ground and leave them there. And what they ended up doing was quite the opposite. They let this team hang around. Let them hang around for the entire game, and damn near should have lost it. The Browns are a terrible team. But the Eagles, and don't tell me they played down to the Browns. No, the Browns and Eagles are on the same level, man. I'm sorry, they are. The Browns are a little bit worse. They got a terrible quarterback, and they're just a little bit worse than the Eagles. And then I think like I would take Cleveland's defense over ours in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, I would take Cleveland's defense over ours. I think they have more athletes. I think they're more athletic. I think they're more aggressive. Jim Schwartz, again, former Eagle defensive coordinator, is getting everything he can out of those guys. Can't keep them healthy. I mean, they keep dropping out there, but they're still a very good group. And I would take their defense over ours in a millisecond. Their quarterback is terrible. He's god-awful. And that's why they lost today. They shouldn't have. If they had a competent quarterback, if he would have gotten hurt and Jameis Winston had to step in, the Browns probably win this game. I think they probably would have. But, November 26, 2023 was the last time the Philadelphia Eagles played any type of game that showed off their ability to be a championship caliber team. And that was against the Buffalo Bills almost a year ago. 11 months and 44 days ago, to be precise. And I don't think we're any better than we were. We're no closer to being that team again. So it's just a terrible loss. Or, terrible win. A terrible win. But the Eagles do win. They go 3-2 now on the season. Next up is the Giants. Flyers off to a 1-1 start. Tuesday night in Edmonton is their next game. And the Phillies will soon decide at least their fate on their manager here in the next couple of days. So all that stuff is happening as we speak. And the Sixers are back at it too. I guess Joel Embiid has been shut down for the rest of the preseason due to a knee injury. So here we go with that. All this stuff, of course, on this beautiful Sunday night here in mid-October. And we will be back tomorrow, as we will be here every night, Tuesday through Thursday, from 10 to 11-ish, being your vessels into the Philadelphia Sports Week. So until we talk again tomorrow, remember, please like and subscribe to the It's a Wrap Sports Network. You're listening to The Final Word with MattyB. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your night and a pleasant tomorrow.